I really should have eaten more. But my fiance bought me some bread, so I'm gonna make a sourdough grilled cheese sandwich later, and it's gonna be awesome. It's gonna be all covered in butter and melty, gooey cheese out of the center of it. And it's gonna take so long to make. See, because if you just make grilled cheese really quickly, let's actually. Ooh, we're gonna make some science here. Science. Oh, there's orange in there too. Orange. Okay, alright. While this is all going, we'll be able to hear when someone actually gets in there. Okay, let's say that this is a cross-section of your normal piece of white bread. By that I mean, this is its, it would normally like go for a long distance that way and a long distance that way. But this is the, you know, this would be like where you put the butter on one side and this is where the cheese would go. Actually, let's put some cheese down there. Cheese. And this is where the cheese goes in the grilled cheese sandwich. We've got some more of this. Okay, so we'll say this is a cross-section of a grilled cheese sandwich prior to being cooked. We actually have butter on top of it. Okay. Okay, so here's our cross-section of bread. Okay, good. The reason why the butter is very important is that it it conducts heat very well, so when you have heat up here, we need to apply heat. It's gonna be heat. It can be red wall. No, wait, no. When the pan comes in contact with the heat source, it conducts through. Blah, blah, blah. It conducts through, and the butter sort of melts, and it fills in all of the little crags. So let's say, instead of say that bread is perfectly flat, it isn't. It's full of all these little crags and holes and whatnot. So the butter sort of fills in these cracks. It makes it even so that when the pan comes in contact with it, it applies all of the heat to the bread, or more heat to the bread than would otherwise be possible. So the butter works sort of like a liquid part of the pan to conduct heat into different parts than it would actually have. But another thing you can do is take a lot of time when making your grilled cheese. Because normally if you just crank up the heat really high, you get browned edges. Let's just say that the butter's there. You know, you just get a very thin layer of brown, or in some cases, if you take too much time, blackened stuff. But if you put it over a relatively low heat and a large amount of time, you get sort of the brownness descending a lot. Maybe not, okay. And some things that are not as brown, but still somewhat browned. So you get this, like, delicious layer of complex flavor, because as the normally boring white starches turn from, you know, slightly, actually let's talk about these for orange. You know, when they go from, actually let's go to gray. Gray would be too weird. When it goes from being normal white bread to slightly toasted to awesomely toasted to occasionally burnt, each level of these is more complex until you hit the carbonized flavors. So you want to stop. You want as much of the grilled cheese to be here in this state, and sometimes here, because both of these have slightly different flavors, but you want to have none of it here. Because if you just like put this over really high heat, you know, whoosh, 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 all of this is just going to turn to black really quickly, and black tastes like charcoal. You want to have as much time as possible to convert as much of this glorious white bread into this, a lot of this complicated, slightly toasted, and a lot of the deeply toasted, really deep, flavorful stuff, and none of the burnies, none of the burn. So you want as much as possible to be here, with almost none of it being here, and as much here as happens. And apparently the fish sticks have won. No, I still see blinking. Back to grilled cheese. Oh yeah, porno music. Oh yeah, this is. Oh, let's talk about more about the cheese as well. It's all delicious and squeezes and oozes out. Anyway, so your goal is for the actual exterior crust is to have as much of these toasted bits as possible without having any burnt bits. So you want a very low heat. It also helps to have melty cheese. So the thing about cheese is it's made up of a bunch of protein structures and fats that have slightly different melting points. And this is why you usually want to use American cheese, because this is very, it melts very well, because a lot of the protein structures and fat sort of melt at the same rate. And it has so much protein in it relative to its, what do you want to call it? How do I want to describe how protein works? Protein. No. Minecraft doesn't have the proper science for this. The basic way to think of... Oh, okay. Fishnets win! Okay. The way to think of proteins are like bundles of... Like, just bundles of string. That sort of are... in many cases sort of like spiral shaped. I don't want to say spiral shaped. Basically, as proteins get hotter, they sort of untangle and they can sort of scrunch up like a spring being pushed, and then they sort of like can squeeze all the deliciousness out. And apparently, someone put a sign there: food science in Detroit. Yes. That's why some cheeses like cheddar, when you heat them up, they sort of start to sweat a little bit of oil. Whereas something like American cheese doesn't, or Colby, or cheeses that are well known for melting better. So that's why in a grilled cheese, you want to make sure that if you are you need to have at least some kind of relatively melty cheese in there. Sometimes what I do is I take like a very good cheddar cheese, some American cheese, some Colby, and then I put in a very small amount of mustard powder and cayenne pepper. But again, a really, really, really small amount. It's not hot at all. And because you're cooking to get this wonderful exterior here, you also end up with a wonderful gooey, melty center. Because sometimes when you get a grilled cheese sandwich that you just put too much heat to, you end up with a pallid interior and a slightly burned, too much heat exterior and cheese that's, ice cold. Cleo is asking, would you come cook for me? Because, dear God. Oh, by the way, you're welcome to hop in to Mumble, Cleo, if you know how to do that. You've been on Mumble before. You know how that works. This is the most ridiculous thing ever. Hold on, wait.